Exclusive. The XCN Endgame protocol is active. My entry and exit strategies. This is NC Hammer Crypto. My name is Neil, keeping technical analysis short and sweet. And for the title, I don't even know. It's just something that DeepSeek came up with. But I will try and keep you informed on the exit strategies. You guys kind of have an idea of my entries from previous videos. And what's pretty cool with technical analysis is that nothing is set in stone. But it's almost like a superpower. You can kind of have an educated guess on predicting the future. Done it many times in the past. It's beautiful to see it play out. Sometimes you get market manipulation like what we had back here, and it destroys the TA, which, as I always say, is completely irrelevant. It's nothing that you can keep control of, and same with the weather. You can't control the weather. Same thing with the market. So as we are looking at Bitcoin, we saw that we had a potential resistance here at 93,000. The reason we had that placed is because back in time, right around here, around 93,000, we had the break over and held support and then had the continuation. That's just the quickest example I can show you. And then we had our drop down to this area, which is where we had predicted and we had our educated guessing taking place. Why? Because previously, this area is where we had resistance. We got that 200 EMA pushing this down. We had that one last dip before ultimately breaking way up to the upside and capitalizing from the previous high here at 109,000. So with our educated guessing, it's pretty cool because we had that in place. Everybody else was thinking the same thing. There's some major support here. And something to keep in mind is it's not the best way to decide to trade a chart, but looking at the volume, we are decreasing in volume and we are increasing in price. When you see something like that, looking at the bottom down here, this is decreasing in volume and this right here is increasing in price. We would call that divergence. So with that divergence, we would like to see this start building higher lows, not breaking below this previous point. However, for the best optimal entry, it's best not to be entering into something like this. Wait for a pullback and a test, because it may drop lower than this previous bar, but hold above this absolute low right here, around 84,000. If we can hold this as support, we can expect that to be bottoming out, getting some consolidation before thinning out the CM guppy and slowly building our way back up to 98,000. There's the possibility for, the government to be like, all right, we're going to put everything into Bitcoin again and it just shoot right up to 108,000. Yes, that's a possibility. We've seen $12,000 moves in previous history within days. So it's nothing out of the ordinary. What is out of the ordinary is the major market manipulation, decreasing it down to 84,000. Completely unnecessary, completely irrelevant for the most part. But we are working our way back into the CM guppy, trying to get to this 50, which is the previous resistance area. And then I expect we could see a little bit more support. And then what you would be looking at, more or less, let's use this as an example. There's the left shoulder, massive head. Everybody loves head. And then potential right shoulder here. We could see something like that play out for Bitcoin, which in turn the rest of the market, like XCN and everything else, will start to skyrocket very, very quickly compared to what Bitcoin is doing. Bitcoin moves up 3%, everything else shoots up 15 to 25% or more. And what I've been noticing is within the altcoin market, you will see something skyrocket 25%, major decrease in price before picking up that support, and then shooting up another 125% decrease in price before shooting up yet again. However, we have seen in XCN consolidation, and you would expect some resistance here at the 200 EMA. No, it just blasted past that, held support here at 0.013, and then had a continuation the next day. So some people may be selling off too early, just trying to get out of their trade, when really the people who have been holding XCN for this long should be holding on as long as possible before selling out portions of their bag. And it's best to sell off like, say, 20%, 25% whenever it gets to the first take profit. So maybe you come up to break even and you want to sell off 25% because you think it's going to reduce in price and you can have a little bit better entry. That's always a possibility. However, if you do sell that 25% and it starts running, then you enter in again and then it does its retracement. So then you're trapped at a higher price than what you previously were. You could have capitalized within that push up. But ultimately, like I've been talking about, breaking this red downward trend line is what needs to be broken to see some astronomical gains that we have placed out here on the chart. XCN is in consolidation, downward, sideways movement. But the biggest picture to be looking at is these two red trend lines. This guy right here and this guy right here. These are the two things that are building a wedge. And if you go into Google and type in wedge pattern, you will see this pattern being played out. Typically, you will see something where it comes way back in, it tested this 200 EMA, pushed up, had that reduce in price, maybe tested again, acting like it was going to break out, comes all the way down, maybe pulls up, tests the bottom yet again, and then ultimately can break up to the upside very quickly and very rapidly, like we have seen in previous history. So for my entries, because I posted the title, original entry. I saw somebody comment the other day saying I don't know what I'm talking about. My entry was originally at 0.00083. I wrote it up to here around 0.002, had a sell-off, and then had another entry because the CM Guppy was still building up and major volume down here on the RS or on the bottom down here. I'm sure the RSI looked healthy as well. And then we had that push up consolidation. There was no reason to sell because we were holding over the 50% mark on the CM Guppy, had that continuation, and my sell-off was somewhere around here before having another entry down here around 0.00137, a sell-off, and then another re-entry when we broke this downward trend line around 0.00252, I believe. And then we had our astronomical gains to the upside. Major reduction in price, working within this wedge that has been built out here. And this is predicting what the possibility of where it can be going just with two lines. All this other stuff is nonsense. So if we get rid of everything, you can mainly just see we got a downward trend here and a downward trend here. It's getting wedged into a tiny corner, and just like a stray cat, it's going to start fighting its way back out whenever it does break that upward trend line. Could we see something like this, where we have it come in through here and then break to the downside? That's always a possibility, but with all the news for XCN coming out, that is mainly just a liquidity sweep down there. Don't worry if it does drop lower, because it is going to be pushing higher here in the very near future. I believe we're going to have a bloody December, but after December, January 1st, I believe they're going to cut basis points, and you're going to start seeing a bunch of money flood into the market and push this easily back up to 0.048. We will get resistance on the way up here around 0.02, maybe 0.025. Some people selling off, waiting for a better entry, but then we'd be stabilizing within that 0.02 to 0.025 with maybe a little bit of consolidation before bopping up to the 0.049 with major sell-off, more than likely, and keep the Fibonacci in range for your mentality for the retracements. Because what you could do is you could say, all right, say this is our bottom. That's a bottom, baby. And we go to here, and we have that major push up. You could see the support being here at the 0.039 more or less, support here at the 0.032, or support here at 0.027. And oddly enough, that matches up with this Fibonacci, right? So you don't even need this reversal Fibonacci. You can be looking at the previous fibs for your support levels on the retracements. So if we hit that 0.49, you would be looking at a 0.04 or 0.032 or even a possibly 0.026, keeping in mind when we break this red downward trend line, we could most likely push up to this area around the 0.021 and then have a quick retracement back down, potentially 50% decrease in price, testing this red line as support, which is necessary to have that stability and keeping that 200 EMA nice and close like we've seen in Tornado Cash before ultimately pushing up and beyond the 0.049 cent mark. So if this is not informative, I really hope it is. Like and subscribe, donate. 50% goes to saving animals' lives. For those of you that have donated, always shout out to you. I am going to start doing live feeds on Patreon for subscribed members to kind of give them more of a benefit, as I think it works on Patreon but not on YouTube. I'm unsure. But with all that being said, that's kind of it for XCN. Like I talked about in the previous videos, look at XLM for comparison. And as I always recommend, Tornado Cash is one of the healthiest coins that I have come across, and it's not pulling up. So I'm going to wait for this to pop up. And look at that, $11 held support. So if you haven't entered into Tornado Cash, the reference link in the description below gives you 20 USDT for free. You can use that to buy Tornado Cash. I always recommend using a VPN. I can't explain how to use a VPN because I think that's what got me a strike on YouTube. And you can kind of figure that out. Connect to your VPN, get on MEXC, and get your Tornado Cash using the reference link below. Good luck, have fun with it, and I will see you on the next one.